Hey guys, this is a character tutorial on Alice. I'm gonna be covering all of her moves, including normals and specials, and kind of tell you about the ins and outs of each of her, and tell you about some of the uses that you might have not thought about previously. Now for these tutorials, if you want to learn how to use this character, how to fight this character, or how to improve your own Alice gameplay, then this is definitely for you. Now Alice is kind of an underrated character. I don't really see her a lot on stream or, and I believe, to my knowledge, on tier lists that she's not placed that high, and I think that's a little bit of a injustice to Alice because she's a lot better than players give her credit for, and hopefully I can shed some light as to why in this tutorial. Alright, now let's go over her close normal. So she's got close A. It's her anti-air, slightly positive. So let me show you the anti-air properties of this. Now for this, you only want to be anti-airing with it in close quarters. Obviously, this also applies to her far A. Now, the thing about this is that she's got a little bit of a hitbox behind her, so it's really useful when your back is against the corner, especially when your other anti-airs like close C and crouching C is going to make the opponent jump over you. Now the thing with kill whiff is if your back is in the corner, your opponent's repeatedly jumping in on you, and you press a button, then you're gonna be moved out of the corner. So that was a poor recording. Let me demonstrate this better. Alright, there we go. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to record a double hop. So for example, close C and crouching C are gonna whiff. So in this case, your close A is going to be a better anti-air or anti-hop tool. Alright, so that's about it with close A. I mean, obviously there's not much else to say. It can link to normals, it can link from other normals. That's pretty much it about it. Now close B is going to be a normal you're going to be using most often because it's 2 hits, so it's easy for your hit confirms. You can combo it from crouching B for a 3-hit hit confirm, and you can cancel it from the second hit or the first hit. And the range detection for this is actually pretty good. Like from here, there we go. Now from there I can get the close B, so you don't have to be extremely close to the opponent for this move to come out. Alright, close C. Now this move forces the character to stand. I don't know why you would need the character to stand in Alice's case, because she doesn't have a standing, specific situation for the character, like Kyo with his EX red kick. But that's fixed with the latest patch. Alright, now interesting enough, between close C and close D, usually the pattern is that close D comes out slower and does more damage, and it has shorter range. But for Alice, her close D actually has more range than her close C. So you can see this distance here, right? Where both of the boots of both Alice's are meeting. So at that distance I get a far C, but at the same distance my D actually comes out, the close D. So in this case, Alice's close D actually has more range than her close C, which comes out, actually, hold on. See? Yeah, it just has more range. Alright, the downside to this though is that it has more pushback. So, for example, some of her combos might whiff at that certain distance, even if it connects. For example, the A Rekkas. For example, let's see, the EX Rekkas will whiff. So that's one downside. So the D version, keep it strictly for punishes, especially when you're doing something optimal. So something like this, for example. Now, in other situations, such as a jump in, you want to stick to the close C to risk your combo, not reaching the characters. Alright, now as I've explained before, close C could also function as an anti-air, but you want to use it on characters who are jumping in on you vertically, like that. Now, if they're too close to you and jumping over you, then it's just gonna whiff like that. Alright, what else? Far normals. So far normals, let's go with far A. Far A, scare anti-air, anti-hop. Whenever don't use it on full jumps, just use it if they're hopping in on you consistently. Now, interesting enough, it can chain into her far B, something that not a lot of far normals do have in terms of properties. So that's something you can use. But honestly, if you're gonna be using far A to combo into her far B, you're better off using her crouching B to do that because it has more reach. Now, far B is gonna be one of her best far normals of the 4. It's a great poke. It's only 0 on block. It's not countable, but it's excellent for a quick max confirm. So for example, you can combo 2 crouching Bs into far A, and you can reliably go into a quick max combo. Alright, now let's go over far C and far D. Now as you can tell from far C, it's gonna be your anti-air. It's a really good hitbox. Oh, that was close, sorry. It's a good hitbox, comes out relatively fast. It does have short reach, so you want to mind the distance, especially depending on what opponent you're facing, but it does have anti-air properties. Far D is one of Alice's best normals. It's got excellent horizontal range, it goes over most lows. So for example, let me go ahead and try and demonstrate this. So that's a far D. Far D right there, and then there's no way that I can counter poke her far D. Right, there's really no way I can do it. Alright, they have to be really close for any of my normals to reach. Alright, and this allows her to beat a lot of characters who kind of like mashing buttons from a crouching position. So for example, you know, Kim's long reaching sweep, you know, this can go over that sweep but also hit the character. And another great thing about this is that no matter how far away you hit with the far D, if you go into a quick max, you're always going to be able to get a close normal and convert it into a full combo. So that's a great thing that's a great tool. And you can also anti-air at certain ranges. So for example, if they're just, you know, jumping in like at this distance, you can still trade or prevent them from, you know, taking into the air. And because of that, it's a great tool to keep them in the corner. So for example, if you're pressuring the opponent like that, you can probably even catch them after a block string like this. So yeah, so that's one of the things you want to think about when you have them in the corner. Just keep them in the corner with far D, because if they try to jump out, you know, most likely they'll get tagged by it. If they try to hop in on you, the upper hitbox is gonna tag them out of it too. So it's just a great button overall. It's really abusable, and it's only -1, so it's not gonna be punishable. Alright, crouching normals. Just ignore crouching A because it can special cancel, but here's the thing. Crouching B, it combos into itself. It's special cancelable. And it has more range than crouching A. So that's crouching A, and here's crouching B. So there's no reason to use it, and crouching B does more damage. So 3 crouching Bs gives me 85, and I can't even combo 3 crouching As. So really, there's no reason to use crouching A over crouching B. Alright, now let's move on to crouching C. It's a great horizontal reach. It could function as an anti-air, but you want to make sure that they're jumping it from you from kind of far away. If they're hopping at you, if they're within hopping distance, it's a little bit risky to use. You do have to use it preemptively. Like for example, if you're too close, that's gonna whiff or make them go over. So only use it if they're kind of jumping away from you, jumping at you from a good distance. I mean, now against a vertical jump in, it works, but you gotta mind the hitbox and not do it too early. So that time I did it too early. So there you go. That's the timing that you want to use. So it's anti-air, but you need to get used to it as an anti-air. It's not going to be guaranteed. Now this normal actually combos reliably into her command normal. So no matter what distance that you hit the crouching C, you're always going to get the command normal. And that makes it for a very useful hit confirm, because in King of Fighters 14, the push block on a hit is actually kind of a lot. So a lot of the times you're not going to get a clean. You'll get a jump in, but then you won't always be close enough to hit them with a close normal. So for example, if you're trying to avoid a command grab and you do a vertical jump in, a lot of the times your close normal is not going to come out. So in this case, a crouching C would be a better choice to combo into. See, there you go. You can also combo it from lights as well. You just need to hit your arrow node kind of deep enough. Alright, crouching D. Oh, another thing about crouching C is that it has, you know, a surprising amount of horizontal range. So, for example, crouching A, I know I said it was useless earlier, but you can actually set up a frame trap with it. So, because it's +1. So if they're trying to press a button in between that string, then they're gonna get tagged by it. So it's a useful hit confirm to think about. Alright, her crouching D, it's an average range sweep. It's only -1, oh sorry, no, -4. So it's not that much it's not punishable from a good distance like this. You can cancel it, but you can only cancel it on hit or block. You can't do a whiff cancel with Alice with her sweep. And ordinarily, I would not use her sweep because her crouching B only has slightly less range. And if you're going to be crouching and doing any sort of normal with Alice, you always want to be using crouching B or her crouching C to anti-air. Alright, let's see. Let's go over her air normals. So jumping A, C, D, and B. Now, for air to ground purposes, you want to be using jumping D a lot of the times. Jumping A, you can serve that purpose too. You can hit a little bit later in the air. Depends on what your preference is for timing. Now, jumping C, it works as kind of air to ground and air to air. It comes out. It's got a good reach, good amount of speed, and it's perfect for jump-ins. For example, if your opponent is pressuring you, like so, and then doing a jump in after a string, then your jumping C would be a good reply to that. Alright, jumping B can also do that, but the thing is, on crouching character is gonna whiff. So that's not something so this is strictly air to air. You want to use this over crouching, oh sorry, not crouching C, but jumping C, if you want it to come out a little bit faster. Alright, jumping C can also hit crouching characters, but you have to do a little bit late because of the reach. See, it whiffs kind of easily, so you have to hit deeper with it. Jumping D is your best choice for an air to ground just because it has more reach, so you can press it in the air earlier, it'll hit them sooner. So that's really important because, you know, if they're blocking low and they're trying to go ahead and block high again, it's always important to use them normal. It's faster because they might be able to go high fast enough. So that's why jumping D is better. And you can hit it from high up and it'll still combo. You don't necessarily have to hit it that deep. Of course, you gotta just keep in mind the killer hits some for air normals. It's not that free. Alright, now jumping blowback. This is also strictly air to air because it's gonna whiff on crouching characters. It's got a good angle for an air to air. See how low she is to the ground on the angle that she is. So in situations, normally in air to air situations, the opponent who's higher than you might be able to beat you out, but it won't be the case with her jumping blowback. Alright, most of the times though, you just want to be sticking to jumping D and jumping C. Alright, now let's go over her command normal, Garnet Spin. So Garnet Spin is a really far-reaching overhead. You can hit them from this distance, and you can still get a close normal if you quick max into it. Now, you can only combo this off of hard normals only, but so for example, there you go, it can't combo from lights. Alright, it's also special cancelable. So if you want to do some sort of basic mix-up, for example, you want to do a overhead setup into quick max, but you notice that they block it, you just go ahead and do another overhead and hit them with a double whammy and go straight into a super. So that's one thing you could do with her. Alright, now let's move on to her specials, Tiger Crack. So this move is a DP motion kicks, and depending on which version you're using, it's got different invincibility properties, or different invulnerability options. it's hard knockdown on hit, and after a Tiger Crack, you can always get a guaranteed safe jump setup, but you do have to time it. So for example, if I jump as soon as I can in this situation, sorry, the jump didn't come out. There we go. There we go. So that's a safe jump setup where your air normal is gonna hit. But if I do it too soon, the air normal will not hit. But the advantage to this is that if the air normal is not gonna hit, I'm still gonna force them to block high. In which case, when I land, I'll just go ahead and use crouching B, because they're gonna be too busy blocking high and then waiting for that hit stun or block stun for them to go back low. So you can catch them with an empty jump setup like that, and whether you do empty jump setup that will hit or whiff, both of them is gonna be safe. Alright, now the difference between the B version and the D version is that the B version comes out slightly faster, and it has lower body invincibility. So I went ahead and recorded the dummy to go ahead and do a reversal. So let me go ahead and show you the B version. Wait a minute. Reversal down slot 1. I guess it's not recorded. Okay, let me just go ahead and record it then. Alright, so the B version has lower body invincibility. So if your opponent is running up to you and mashing shorts, then you should be able to beat them out. D version has upper body invincibility, so if they're mashing shorts on me, then they're still gonna beat me out. Now here's the thing, for Tiger Crack, I don't recommend using it as a reversal option in either situations, because here's why. So let me go ahead and set up the same thing. Now, even though the D version has upper body invincibility, notice how I'm still getting beaten out. Why is that? I have upper body invincibility. Well, there's a huge misconception versus upper body invincibility and lower body invincibility. It doesn't mean that certain normals will always whiff you or anything like that. It only means the visual portions of your body. So for example, Alice's close C, right? Even though it's not hitting, even though the D version has upper body invincibility, her close C hits like a good amount of the character's body. So for example, the lower body. So I'm still hitting the lower body of this move, even though the hit spark right there is on her torso. The range of this move actually covers maybe like, you know, from the knee up. Because otherwise, if it doesn't, then it would whiff over crouching characters. Then the upper body invincibility would work. But in most cases in KOF, you know, close normals are gonna be able to hit, you know, are gonna beat out Alice. Even if you're trying to use it as a jump in. So let me go ahead and record the dummy to do this. So even if I use D Tiger Crack, most of the times I'm gonna get traded. And here's why. Because if I use jumping D or any other air normal, the jumping D is still gonna hit the lower portion of Alice's body. So even if there's upper body invincibility, the lower body is still susceptible to being hit. It's still a hitbox that's there. So that's why you don't want to use Tiger Crack as an anti-air. Because if you do, all you're doing is putting yourself in a counter hit situation, and what you're actually doing is just adding more damage to yourself. And really, what you should just be doing is just anti-airing with a grounded normal, which resets the situation anyways. Or you could just block. So really, don't use Tiger Crack unless you're an EX move as a reversal and an anti-air, because the EX version actually has full body invincibility, it comes out slightly faster, and also it has a better knockdown situation. So here's the difference between the EX version and the regular version hard knockdown situations. So if I do a full jump with the regular versions, the opponent gets out way sooner, but I could do a full jump from the EX version and get a safe jump setup. So let me go ahead and record the dummy to do a safe jump setup right here. Now let me go ahead and do a reversal, and it's going to be safe jump setup. So there you go. 90% of the time this is a safe jump setup. Now the only time that this wouldn't work is against characters like K-Dash or King's EX Surprise Rose. For K, he would need to use a version of DP. And I believe Yuri's and Rio's crouching C, which comes on 3 frames, Should be able to anti-air it too, but I haven't really tested that. But really it's about the speed, so I might, at most it will probably trade. But yeah, otherwise you should be able to get a safe jump setup easily from EX Tiger Crack. Alright, now let's move on to Southtown Variation. So, Southtown Variation is quarter circle forward punches. The difference between the A version and the C version is that A version comes out a little bit faster, but it doesn't combo from lights or anything. The C version does a little bit more damage, and the main difference beyond that is the distance. So the A version will travel this far, about half screen. The C version will travel 3/4 of the screen. Now here's a misconception about Alice's Southtown Variation. So even though it travels 3/4 of the screen, it's not going to hit from 3/4 of the screen, right? Because the whiff animation, the true range of the move, is like right here, and then after a certain point she'll go into a whiff animation. So even if she travels this far, that's not the range of her move, right? That's just a whiff animation. So the range of both of these moves is really closer to half screen. So that's the A version, and this is the C version. The C version is only a little bit further than half screen. But all that's not really useful information, because you don't want to use it from full screen at all. In fact, you don't want to be using it outside of a block string, because on whiff she gets that animation. So your opponent could be doing anything. They could be jumping, they could be rolling, they could be backdashing, anything that can make this move whiff. And as long as it whiffs, they'll get a free punish, just because there's so much whiff, there's so much recovery on whiff. So it's not something you want to do. Now on block or hit, she has two follow-ups, so Southtown Variation Charge and Southtown Variation Spin. Now let's go over the Charge variation. So it's a safe follow-up. It's -2 at worst. It's possible to be plus on this Southtown Variation Charge, but you have to do it from kind of far away, and it's really hard to get. But it's not something that's really useful, because you're not going to be able to consistently get it in a real battle. So there's really no way to just practically set up an advantage of Southtown Variation Charge in a situation where you're plus. Most of the times, if you do it into a block string, you're still going to get the negative frames. Now, interestingly enough, there's different outcomes to the block stun or situation depending on, one, how early you do the Southtown Variation and how late you do the cancel. So let me show you what I mean. So here's Southtown Variation, and here's an early cancel. Now it's possible to do a late cancel like that. Now the difference is they're able to, it's not a true block string, so you can actually catch them getting hit out of it. So that's just something, it's minor, it's not really a big deal, but let me go ahead and show you. There you go. So that's one guard jump. They're trying to jump out of it, but they can't, because they're just gonna get hit by the follow-up. Now let me see what the frame advantage is on a late cancel. One guard jump. Yeah, you're still a little bit negative, so it's not, you don't want to press a button after Southtown Variation Charge. Now if you do get them on hit, it'll leave them standing, but you won't be able to get much off of it except the super cancel. That's pretty much it. Now it's just a move that you strictly use during a block string on block, not on hit. If you get a hit, you gotta be using Herekas. Alright, let's see. That's about it for Southtown Variation Charge. One thing you could do is you get a blowback. You could do the charge to get an air juggle and then finish it off with Tiger Crack. So that's one thing you could do. Or if you're using her blowback, then you always want to be using that. Actually, I don't think I covered her blowback, huh? So let me go ahead and do that. Sorry about that. So Alice's blowback, it comes out really fast. It's only -1, and it's off the ground for just a few frames. So you're able to go over grounded fireballs and crouching normals. So it's a really good move to use. There's something that you want to do. Just do a block string, put yourself at a distance where they might want to press a button, but then they won't be able to reach you in time. So they'll probably have to move forward or jump or something, you know, to get in range. But at that time, you can just go ahead and throw out a blowback and you'll get them with it. And if you're lucky enough to get a wall stick, you can do this conversion. So yeah, blowback is a move that you want to be using with Alice a lot. Alright, so that's a quick sidetrack. Now let's go back and resume with our specials. So I left off at soft time variation. So charge is done and over with. Oh yeah, one more thing about soft time variation. If you get it on hit, make sure you always want to do a follow-up, because if you don't cancel into any of the follow-ups, then you gotta get that whiff animation and you're gonna be insanely punishable. Alright, now let's move on to soft time variation spin. So for soft time variation spin, she does a little bit of a, you know, a Blanca ball, and she does have that little animation there, but it's optional. You know, you don't have to be stuck in it. You know, so if an opponent doesn't know Alice very well and they probably think like, oh, it's a recovery animation, you know, you could sort of bait them. But beyond that, you know, you always want to be moving in KOF. Now, the soft time variation spin is actually difficult to punish, but it is possible. For example, I could use EX Shadow Dunk. It does require a bar, and you have to use it right away, but it's possible. So don't think that you're getting away with the soft time variation spin, because if your opponent is willing to use the bar, they can punish you. And of course, it depends on the characters too. Like maybe K's minute spike might reach, or maybe Heinz, close circle forward might reach. It really depends on the character that you're facing. So you just want to keep that in mind when using spin. Now, in terms of when to use this move, never actually. Don't use it by itself. You only want to use it in a block string, like that. Now, one thing you want to be careful of is if they use guard cancel roll, because if they do, they're gonna make you whiff the move. So that's one thing you just want to watch out for. So if they don't have bar, it's good to use it because it's only -2 compared to the Rekka, which is -6. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Now the spin, I only really want to use spin. Alice is a character that you want to be getting in with. She's not really a keep away character. Even with, you know, almost like far B and far D, she only gets so much off of it. So you just want to, you know, always don't really use spin, and there's a chance that they could punish it too. Alright, the EX of soft time variation, she does the charge and spin follow-up sequentially, and it is possible to cancel into diving tackle. So it doesn't matter whether it's the EX version of diving tackle or the regular version, you could still combo into either of them. Now, the range of this move, it's the same thing. It's the same as the C version, you know, slightly over half screen. But as you can see, she still gets that whiff animation follow-up. So if it does miss the opponent, you're still going to be insanely punishable. So if you're in max mode, it's not a move that you want to be using or throwing out randomly. Alright, now let's go over Wolf Combination. So Wolf Combination is her Rekka. It's her main combo tool. It's a Rekka series up to 3 hits, and the 3 hits are actually lenient on the timing. So let me go ahead and show you. 1, 2, 3. So you actually delay it at a point where they might not even combo to each other. But nonetheless, if you're able to, there we go. That's an example of how you could cancel kind of late to each other. And I'm not really comboing into the B's. It's pretty bad on my part. There we go. So it's a good hit confirm because you want to stick to one hit. Alright, another thing about this. The A version combos from lights, as you can already see. The pushback on the third Rekka makes it hard to punish, but it is possible. So let me go ahead and show the dummy doing the full Rekka series, and then go ahead and blocking. Oh, what the hell? How'd I hit? So there's a reversal. It is punishable. It's a little bit difficult to punish just because of the pushback, but if the opponent is willing to spend bar to do a guard cancel roll and they're in a corner, then they can get a full punish off of Alice. So that's why I recommend that if you're ever using the Rekka series on block, just stick to the first hit. Don't do the other two. Alright, the difference between the C version and the A version is that A version always combos into lights. The C version, however, cannot combo into lights. You can only combo it into from hard normals. Oops. There you go. So you can only combo the C version from hard normals. It does more damage. It is slower and more punishable on block. So if you're using the Rekkas at all on block, just always stick to the A version. Oh, and it travels farther too. So that's the C version, and here's the A version. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. The Rekkas, there's not much of anything function-wise outside of combos. Alright, the EX version for Wolf combination. You can also combo this from lights. All the Rekka series are done automatically, so you don't need to press them manually as you do with the regular versions. And as you can see, it causes a ground bounce. So it's her main combo tool, whether it's EX or not, especially in quick max combos. And what else? It's only -3 on block, so it's not very punishable unless, like I said before, they're willing to guard cancel roll the second hit. So just be careful when you're going around using raw EX moves. If you do this, you won't be able to cancel any of the Rekkas, and your opponent will be able to just guard cancel roll the second one. So just be careful about that. Alright, oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention about Tiger Crack is that you can combo it from lights, and it actually does more damage than her Rekka series. So here's a Rekka series, it's 179, and here's a D version of Tiger Crack. Now that's only gonna work on standing characters though. Actually, wait a minute. I guess it works on crouching characters, but it's a little bit risky because if I do a little bit farther like this, oops. There we go, that would have whiffed. Ah, dang it. Let's see. Okay, so I'm not able to demonstrate the whiff properties on Tiger Crack. Actually, it's hitting a lot more consistently than before. But there is a possibility that it could whiff, so just be careful about that, depending on the character that you're facing and the distance in which you're trying to combo it. But yeah, that's one thing that's one little thing about Alice, if you're trying to play her as optimally as possible. Alright, last special, Diving Tackle. This move sucks. You can cancel it from any air normal, and you can actually cancel it from any air normal at any distance. So here's an example of it hitting really low. You can do it from crouching C, not crouching C, I'm sorry about that. You can do it from any of the air normals, including blowback. So let me have the character stand, and there you go. Now the reason I said the move sucks is because you'll get the whiff animation, and it's just really punishable. Now, like I said before, just like with Southtown Variation, if your opponent is backdashing, rolling, jumping, or any situation that will cause this move to miss, then she'll get that whiff animation, and she's gonna be really punishable. So it's not a move that you want to be throwing out recklessly. You only want to throw this out if you want to confuse your opponent who's trying to anti-air, or if you're jumping over the fireball and you kind of want to get, I don't know, some sort of punish. Like if you neutral jump a fireball and you want to change your air trajectory, that's a good example of when to use it. But otherwise, you do not want to use this move just because of the whiff animation. Even if you get it, even if you hit them on, if you land this on block, it's still punishable. So let me go ahead and demonstrate that. So you have the computer use it. So that's point blank range. Very punishable. Now let me go ahead and space this out a bit. Now that's a punish right there. Of course, you know, 4D is too slow for it to punish, but there you go. It's a very punishable move. You don't want to throw it out. Even if you space it, it's still gonna be punishable. Alright, here's the difference between the B version and the D version. The B version does slightly less damage. The D version does 2 hits, and the distance traveled is slightly different, but it's not that much. So the B version is a little bit steeper. The D version travels a little bit further, but it's only a really small difference. Both versions of diving tackle are punishable, so let me go ahead and demonstrate that once again. So that's the D version. Earlier I demonstrated the B version. Oops. My crouching C is not coming up. There we go. I had to mash that out for some reason, but it is punishable on both versions. Alright, one thing to note is that this move is actually surprisingly special cancelable. So if you, for some miracle, you had landed, you could go ahead and special cancel into whatever you want. Sorry, not special cancel, but super cancel. But it's not practical, so it's not something you're going to be doing very often, if at all. Now the EX version, it's less punishable, has more hits, and recovers fast enough to combo. But it really depends on the height that you use it. The closer you are that you use it, the closer you are to the ground when you use it, the more time that you have to do a follow-up with it. Alright, now this move, like I said, it's less punishable, but it's still kind of punishable if you use it too close. So here's an example of it being too close. So that's a full punish right there. Let me try to use it at the tip. There you go. At that time, it's actually kind of safe. But for the most part, it's not something you want to use even on EX, because you'll get that whiff animation, you know, regardless if you're using regular or EX. So it's not a move you want to be using at all, actually. And speaking of which, I think I forgot to mention that for Southtown Variation Spin, you could cancel into Diving Tackle. But yeah, if I didn't mention that before, now you know. Alright, now let's move on to her specials. Her supers. So Special Wolf Combination is double quarter circle forward kicks, and it's got invincibility even on level 1. The EX version just does more damage. Functionality wise, it's not that different from the level 1. And this super, you can just forget about it, because the Shadow Dunk, which is her double quarter circle forward punches, it does the same thing. You know, it's invincible. It goes through projectiles, and it does more damage. It's more practical for combos. So as a reversal option, it's better, and for damage, it's better. And therefore, there's no reason to use Special Wolf Combination over the Shadow Dunk. Now, going over the Shadow Dunk, it does go through projectiles. The other one can go through projectiles, but it's only because of its invincibility properties. Shadow Dunk is actually meant to go through projectiles because of its horizontal reach and distance. Now, here's the range for Shadow Dunk. It goes about 3/4 of the screen, so so around here is the max distance. Anything farther than that is gonna whiff, like right here. So you want to mind the distance. Now the EX version, functionality wise, it's the same thing. I believe it comes out slightly slower. No, sorry, faster. It comes out faster. And it has just a little bit more reach, but not that much more. Actually, I wonder if that's even true. Alright, but either way, it's the super that you want to be using over the kick super. So there's no reason to use a Special Wolf Combination for any reason. Alright, finally her climax. This is half circle back punches. She does a bit of a bare knuckle, and if that connects, she'll do the rest of the animation of her climax. Now this move, you're not going to be using it a lot, if at all. It does have invincibility, but there is no practical advanced cancel into it. For example, if you use Special Wolf Combination, there's no way to do a practical advanced cancel, because, you know, they're going to be in the air. And you know, even if you advance cancel and match the hit, you only gotta get a little bit of the hits. Even with Shadow Dunk, I only get 80 damage before the climax lands. And for a total, I get 496. It's really not worth it. So that's one of the downsides of Alice, is that she doesn't have good advanced cancels or climax cancels. If you're gonna be using any bar with Alice, you guys just want to stick with 2-bar combos. Alright, so that's everything about Alice in terms of her moveset. Now let's go over her links. So the links you want to be using is pretty simple with Alice. Just 3 crouching Bs into Reckless. Now if you're going for jump-ins, just keep it to 2 shorts or sometimes 1. Now if you're close up, you can go ahead and combo it into close B if that's what you like. It's a little bit easier to confirm, I guess, since you only have to press 2 buttons, but you still get the 3 hit confirm. Either way, you can combo into quick max on both of those confirms, even though I dropped it just now. Alright, and if you want to use a hard normal to combo, then just use C or D into a command normal into Rekka series. Now, for confirms on hit, you always want to use the Rekka series. And if on block, you can just go ahead and string it to 4 hits, you know, just to keep yourself safe. And if you want to cancel into a special, use the A Rekka versions and leave it only 1 hit. And then, alternatively, you can go ahead and use South-Time Variation Charge. But just be careful of the guard cancel roll on the elbow, because, you know, if they do that, they're gonna make the rest of your move whiff. Alright, quick max confirms. So they're gonna be pretty much the same from your hit confirms. 3 crouching Bs into this. Alternatively, you can link up to 4 hits. It's a little bit harder to connect into a close normal, because you get the possibility of just getting a far C, or if you're trying to run up to get the close C, you might not make it in time, and the hit stun might wear off. So that's one thing you want to keep in mind. So in general, just stick to 3 hits because it will be easier, and you don't really need more than 3 hits to do a hit confirm. Alright, now combos. With no bar, you want to use close C or close D into command normal into Rekka, or lights into Rekka. Either way, you get that hard knockdown. Now if you're using 1 bar, here's what you do. You can do any hit confirm into EX Rekkas, into EX Tiger Crack. Now 1 bar combo, that's all you need. Doesn't matter where you are on the screen. There's really no even in the corner, it's the same thing, and you'll get a safe jump setup after that. So pretty straightforward, nothing crazy. Now 2 bar combos, it's pretty much gonna be the same thing with just a slight change in variation. So do any hit confirm, EX Rekkas. Now instead of doing Tiger Crack, you're gonna go ahead and do an A Rekka into EX Shadow Dunk. And no matter what hit confirm you get it from, you're gonna get a ton of damage. So from lights, I get 471. And if I do it from optimal normal, I'm gonna get a little bit over 500, 531. So that's a good chunk of damage. It's a lot of damage actually, above average damage output for 2 bars. That's amazing with Alice. Now, you can go ahead and not do the A Rekka, and you can still get the Shadow Dunk. I mean, some people might have trouble going to the A Rekka into the Shadow Dunk. You're only gonna miss out on, 10 damage, 10 or 11 damage. But you just want that extra damage, just go ahead and throw in A Rekka. But yeah, if you want to do a little bit more optimization, that's what the A Rekka is for. Alright, now blowback conversions. Off the middle of the screen or away from the corner, you're not gonna really get much. Really, there's nothing that she could use that can reach in time. Even if you use a random Shadow Dunk, she won't make it in time, I believe. And now in the corner, that changes. Just do South-Time Variation Charge into D Tiger Crack, and you get a good chunk of damage. Now for the versions of South-Time Variation, just use the C version and then the D version of Tiger Crack. If you use the light versions of both of those moves, you're gonna get slightly less damage. 230, that's a kind of a huge difference from 261. Alright, that's it for combos with Alice. I know it's you know, actually wait, there is one more combo with Alice that she can do in the corner. So let me show you damage difference first. Here's our optimal one with 2 bars. Oops. That time I didn't run out close enough. So that is 402. Now on Anchor, what you want to do is Southdown Variation into EX Diving Tackle into EX Tiger Crack. But that time I did Diving Tackle a little bit too late. You're gonna have to do it right away. And that time I accidentally used the wrong special. There we go. And you get slightly more damage. Really the difference is not that much, but you know, it is there for if you need it. I don't think you should be using Anchor Alice in any situation unless you just really like her. But there you go, that's a possibility. And that combo, of course, it only works in the corner. Alright, so that's it with combos, specials, normals. Now let's go over her strengths and weaknesses. So the good things about Alice is that she has high damage output with 1 or 2 bars regardless of the screen positioning. So even with no bars, you know, she gets a good amount of damage. She gets a hard knockdown after every combo. And with 1 bar, she could get like 400 or close to over 300 all the time. And with 2 bars, she always gets, you know, over 450 to 500 depending on what kind of hit comes from. So really above average damage output for, you know, not that much resources. And her combos are not even complicated. She's, you know, really easy. It's just EX Rekkas into Tiger Crack or Super. And the fact that she doesn't need to screen or corner to do any of her damaging combos is also a strength, because, you know, some characters like let's see, like actually I can't really think of a good example, but oh, Yuri needs a combo to do some really high damage. But you know, Alice doesn't really need that positioning as much as other characters do. Another good thing about Alice is really easy hit confirms, because for crouching B, it's just combos into itself and special cancel goal. So you can do things like jumping this, jumping normal into crouching B, into a full series, and I'm jumping the combo. But there you go. So she's really easy to hit confirm with. You can just easily decide between, you know, going into a special or going into a quick max. So, you know, the decision making, you know, it's not that difficult with Alice. You can just decide on the spot right away. And her specials are safe on block. Rekkas is only -6, you're not gonna really get a punish for that. And the push black is gonna be too far for them to do anything real off of it. Or you can go to Southdown Variation, you just have to watch out if they're doing a guard cancel roll. And also long reaching overhead into easy damage. So this is one of her best tools in the game. It's one of the best overheads just because of the reach. And the reason the reach is so important is because you can hit them unexpectedly, you know, with an overhead. So, you know, if you have your opponent scared, you've got such good ground control, game control to the point where your opponent is just blocking a lot, you can just hit them out of nowhere with this overhead, you know, because in this game, you know, overhead subs are pretty obvious most of the times, you know, like you can only, most of the times the setup is like jumping normal into overhead or a knockdown into overhead, but because of the reach of Alice, you know, that changes the amount of setups that you could do. You know, you can just be playing footsies on the ground with the opponent and then out of nowhere, you know, overhead into a full combo. It's a very dangerous thing about Alice. It's so good. Now the downsides about Alice, I don't think they're that big of a deal. For example, Southdown Variation and Diving Tackle are insanely punishable on whiff. But really the solution is just don't use them. And honestly, this doesn't really provide you much in terms of functionality. You know, it's just a safer version on block. And Diving Tackle, like really she doesn't need it. It's just a dive move, it doesn't really get you much. You know, it's mostly useful in a combo, I suppose, especially if you land a Southdown Variation spin. But really, you're not missing out on much by not using these air normals. Now one thing Alice can do, I believe on taller characters, she can go ahead and do instant overhead into this, into a super cancel, but really, you know, it's not integral to her gameplay. Another thing is that she doesn't have any practical combos in terms of max cancels and things like that, so her damage output beyond 2 bars is very limited. You know, with 1 or 2 bars you can get 400 to 500 damage, but with 3 or 4, even 5 bars, the damage is not going to be, you know, as good as characters like Athena or Iori or Kyo. You know, like she's just not going to get much off of that. But really, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That just means that you can't use her on Anchor. You know, it doesn't really make her any less of a good character than she already is. So really, in the long run, or in the big picture, her cons or the weaknesses of Alice are not that bad. Alright, position. This is gonna be obvious already, but on point or second, it's really up to you. If you know, if your 2 other characters need bar to do any damage, then just go ahead and put her on point. Now, if you want to use Alice and you want the damage potential, you just go ahead and put her on second. But never put on Anchor unless you just really like her, because she doesn't have any good Anchor material stuff. Characters, there are much better characters in the roster that can make use of 5 bars than Alice can. Alright, strategies. So before I go into, you know, specific kind of strategies with Alice, here's what you need to do with Alice. If you're using Alice, there's 2 things that you must absolutely always have. Right? First of all, don't use Southtown Variation or Diving Tackle, right? On whiff, or sorry, on neutral. Like, don't use them raw, right? Because it's insanely punishable, and you know, it might seem like, you know, like it might seem like a good idea just because it's a charging move like Andy Zainenkin, but there's a lot more risk than reward for it. You're not gonna get much off of it. Alright. Second, be able to hit confirm at any given moment from her crouching B. Whether you're doing, you know, 3 crouching Bs, or getting a jump in from a jumping C into crouching B, or some sort of block string like this, 2 of this. Just always end your strings with crouching B into Rekka. And then after the Rekka, you can just easily decide whether you need to finish the rest of the series. Alright. Now let's go into offense and neutral. So if you're trying to get in with a character, with Alice, just stay on the ground a lot of times. If you want to jump or hop, always be using jumping C or jumping D. Jumping D if you know they're going to be on the ground, because of the reach is really good. Now jumping C for anti-airs, to keep them on the ground and to hit them out of the air. Just hop a lot with Alice for jumping D is really good. A lot of the times what you also want to do is abuse her blowback. It's only -1, so it's not punishable. And once you get a hit confirmed, especially in the corner, you can get this for extra damage without having to use bar. Another thing you want to do is frame trap with crouching A into crouching C. So this works anywhere on the screen. If your opponent is known to be, you know, button mashy, then punish their ass with this frame trap. Another thing you could do is you could do crouching B, close B into a command normal, into Southtown Variation. Now let me go ahead and record the dummy doing this. Oops. Alright. So if I try to jump out of that, I'm gonna get hit into a full combo. Let me re-record this actually. There we go. Okay. So there you go. That's a block string that she can use. And even if they block the Southtown Variation charge, then you could trick them with the crouching B into the Rekka series. And here's why that works. So let me go ahead and have the computer block this. So depending on the distance in which your Southtown Variation ends, if it hits for example, oops. Huh, why is it whiffing? There we go. So at that distance here, oops, we do that again. So use the A version. So at this distance here, see, your opponent might be trying to press a button to punish you, right? But they're not going to be at a range where they're going to be able to punish you. If they stick out a hard normal, then they're actually gonna get tagged because you're only -2 or 1 at this point. So if you stick out crouching B into the Rekkas, you gotta be able to tag them out of whatever they're pressing. So that's the frame trap idea behind this string right here. They're gonna get hit by the command normal into the power charge, or after the power charge, they'll get tagged by the Rekka. So it's a trick that you want to use with Alice. And one of the things that you do, just be creative with your block strings, and that's one of the ways I've come up with. Another thing offensively you could do with Alice is just the deceptive range of crouching C. So in a situation where you feel like they're gonna be running up at you, like this, you can catch them running into your face. So it's a good button to throw out every now and then. Alright, another thing, mixing up between overhead and shorts to get a quick max confirm. So one of the things you could do with her overhead, besides having a really long, out of nowhere overhead confirm, is that if you get the overhead and you feel like they're gonna block, just go immediately into crouching B and go ahead and combo. Because what they have to do is block high and then block low immediately. Now, if you want to go take it to the next level, you can go ahead and do a double overhead into a super. Now, if you want to be really cheeky, you could do EX Rekkas, jab reset into overhead, and I botched it. So jab reset, overhead because it reaches so far, and you get an insane amount of damage off of a reset. So let me go ahead and show that again. So assume I get a light confirm. Oops, that didn't combo. And they're full health. So if I do that and I get a full reset combo, that deals about like 70%. That's a really good reset. Alright, so that's one thing you could do with her overhead. She's just really a lot of tools with a lot of utility for it. Alright, let's see what else. If you have them in a corner, keep them in with FAR D. I know I mentioned this before, but I don't think I could stress how important this is. Because if I'm being pressured like this, right? I'm trying to jump out. Well, if I do a hop, see, if I try to hop forward, that 4D is gonna tag me. And if I want to chase her, then it's gonna tag me too. So really, what can I do? A full jump in, but then it's not gonna be truly punishable. Let me have them block. Oops, putting myself in the corner here. So yeah, even if I jump, I might just whiff. So it's a difficult strategy to deal against this FAR D, so it's really useful. And if you do get a confirm with FAR D, just remember you can get a full hit confirm. I think it's pretty easy to react to just because the hit stun, all you need to do is see them get hit. And you can even get a FAR D, sorry, not FAR D, close D, if you want to do extra bit of damage. So that's one thing you want to keep in mind. Now, defense wise, anti-airs, you want to use crouching C, FAR C, jumping C, or FAR A. It depends on the distance, depends on the jump arc, depends on the character you're facing, depends on what normals they're using in the air. But for the most part, those are going to be your anti-air tools. Just remember that close C and crouching C is going to whiff if you're in the corner and they're jumping forward. So you want to use it on characters who are jumping vertically. Now if you're getting rushed down, you might be wondering, okay, what kind of button do I want to press? Because you want to be pressing FAR B and FAR D. Now the speed of these moves are pretty. Actually, what the hell? Okay, never mind. I thought the game was just running extra fast, but it's not. But yeah, FAR D, FAR B, FAR B to be on the safer side. It's got a good reach. It's a counter poke. Use as a counter poke is what I mean. Because there's gonna be strings between your opponent's block string. Well, for example, this. So even the FAR D is a dangerous tool, but if characters have that same kind of tactic as Alice, then your FAR B is going to be useful. Don't underestimate its reach, it's really good. And one last thing, if you're on the defense, don't use Tiger Crab. I know if a character has a DP motion and there's some invincibility, it's tempting to use it as a reversal, but really you don't want to do it because there's just so much risk involved with it. Even if you're in the corner, oops. Even if you're in the corner and they're hopping in on you, you're moving forward, they're moving forward, you gotta be moving past each other. And the only one who's gonna lose in this situation is you because you used the DP, and you gotta be punishable. And not to mention her Tiger Crack doesn't have good invincibility options on the regular versions. So yeah. Alright, so if you're playing Alice, one of the things you might be struggling with is, you know, her, I guess her normals. A lot of people, you know, for sure when I picked up Alice, I first thought her normals were a lot kind of weird. Like I couldn't see how good they were, but really I just needed experience fighting with her or knowledge with her, you know, in order to realize that some things like 4D are so good. Her standing blowback is really good. Her crouching C has so much range. You know, there's a lot of, you know, the utility of Alice. She's not as simple as, you know, EX Rekkas into super, you know, overhead into quick max and things like that. There's a lot more tools that I feel players are sleeping on, you know, in terms of technology with this character. So yeah, I hope that my Alice tutorial shed a lot of light as to how useful Alice can be, some of the things that you can do with her that players haven't really done or even thought about. So yeah, there you go. I hope that helps. Go ahead and leave any comments or questions and I'll answer them as best as I can. And thank you for listening.